Hello and welcome to the second session of Crowdfunder's Improving Life for Londoners series, where you're going to learn from me. My name's Sammy Morger. I'm broadcasting live from Crowdfunder HQ down in Newquay, where it's actually a beautiful day out at the beach outside. And today we're going to be talking all about creating your project. That's making the perfect project page. So first of all, a little bit of a recap for those of you who came along to the last session, and for anyone who missed it. Last session we were talking all about planning your project and the key things that you need to do to lay a really solid foundation. Now, if you did miss that session, you can rewatch the video on Eventbrite, where you've signed up to the video today. So please do catch up on that first of all before the session today. So today we are going to be talking about creating your project, and we're going to divide it down into these 4 key parts, okay? First up, it's about telling your story through that written description that makes up the bulk of your project page. Next, we're going to have a quick look at creating videos, what kind of rewards you might want to offer and what kind of thing works, and also setting targets, okay? So first up, let's have a look at one of my favourite projects, actually back from a couple of years ago now, at Roehampton University. So we're going to jump over into the live Crowdfunder site and have a look at their project page. So you can find this still, it's still on there if you go /Growhampton, as it's spelled just there in the title, and you can see everything that happened on their project page. You can see their updates, you can see their backers, you can see which rewards people were looking at, and it's a really fantastic example of how to lay out a page. You see it's very bold, very bright. It's divided up into really, really clear sections. It takes you right the way through the story. I love what they've done here with the visuals, using the chickens to add in some testimonials, so they've got other voices on the page too. Lots of really great images that are very in keeping with who Roehampton are. They're actually a cafe, the Hive Cafe, where they also grow and their own produce and keep chickens and that kind of thing as well. And they were looking to expand their space into another shipping container to give themselves a little bit more room. And they've made it really clear what it is that they're going to do with the money. Again, they've got some lovely product shots there of sandwiches and coffee, the things that are included in that reward. So that's there for people to see. It's really fun, it's really on brand, and they got a really clear call to action at the end. Really, really important to have that so people get to the bottom and they know what it is they need to do next. So I definitely advise having a look through this page, and there are some others included in the second part of our crowdfunding pack, which is all about creating your project. So do have a look, and you can see, as I say, which rewards we're getting the most pledges. You can see there's 70 there, 31 just above and 25 below. So it's really interesting to see that, and you can track through, read their project updates, read the kinds of things that they were posting, and there's some really, really great stuff on there. Okay, so back to where we were. Really important, first of all, to figure out what it is you're trying to say about yourselves as a project. What's your hook? What is it that makes your project interesting to the people that you're trying to attract to support it in some way? Once you've really nailed that, everything else should fall into place much, much easier. So what is that connection? I think that's really important to remember. So what we're not doing with this description, with this written text, is it shouldn't necessarily be overly formal. You don't want to use lots of jargon. It's definitely an opportunity to have a little bit of fun with your writing. Remember, it's for Your average Joe, it's for that kind of audience. So you shouldn't necessarily be sort of copying and pasting the kind of thing that you might write into a grant application ordinarily. There's definitely a slightly different tone here. So think about what it is that you're trying to achieve, not just in physical terms. So it might be that you're trying to build a community space, but actually, what's the long-term achievement there? Is it bringing people together? Is it increasing access to a particular facility? Is it getting people active? What is it? And really sort of work through that. What is it that makes your project great? So what makes it interesting, exciting, different, unique? I think you can swap that word great for every other word that you can think of right the way through. And that's really what we want to use to make your project stand out from the crowd. Who you are and what's your experience, finally, that's really, really key. Not only in giving your project a bit of credibility, so that people know that you have the capability to deliver on what it is that you say you're going to do, but also helps to make it much more relatable and very human. So don't be afraid to put your face and put your name into your project. People like to know who it is that they're supporting. People fund people, okay? And once you've got that written, definitely get someone else to have a look through it, maybe give some feedback, check your spelling, your grammar, and anything that they think is missing or anything that they think doesn't need to be in there. Once you're happy and you've got that done, you definitely want to be adding some visual texture to your page. Now, what we mean here is things like images, like we just saw on Growhampton's page. They had those fantastic testimonials, pictures of your team. Definitely be using headings too to guide people through. I think that's really, really important. When people see big chunks of text, it's quite intimidating. So use really clear headings so that people can jump straight to those different bits. And it might be that there's other things that are really relevant for your project, perhaps a map of where you're based, if it's in a specific location, so people can kind of relate that to where they are, where they live or work. And perhaps actually there's infographics. If you are basing the need and what it is that you're trying to achieve with your project, perhaps around a social issue, can you give any data and present that in a more interesting way to kind of back up what it is that you're trying to do? And with those bits together, you should find that you've got a pretty clear story that people can read and they can sort of see through visually. Make sure that you're picking images that are bright, ones that include real people. Again, if you know someone who's pretty nifty with a camera, don't be afraid to recruit them on to the team and ask around if people have other images that you can put on there. Of course, the other way in which you can tell your story is through video. Now, really important for me to mention that this is not essential. You don't need to have a video on your project page. If you do have a video, it will go right at the top of the page. It will replace that project image. That will show right up there at the top. We do find that projects that have videos tend to get much better engagement. But if it's something you're really not able to do, don't feel too much pressure that you have to have one on there. Again, it doesn't need to be a Spielberg performance. Most people just make their videos on their smartphones. Something like an iPhone is really great. Just sort of put it over sideways and get your video shot. Doesn't need to be long at all. In fact, shorter is better. Definitely under 2 minutes, if not shorter, to be honest. It's a good idea to write down some key points so that you're not necessarily completely off the bat. But sometimes if you go too much on a script, it can be quite difficult if you're not used to doing that. And it kind of just feels like you're reading a bit of text, which completely defies the point of having a video. Get some people to help you. The more people we can get in the video, the better. If it's a community project, let's meet some of the people in that community. And make sure you get yourself on screen if you can. If it's not too difficult for you to do so, do get yourself on screen again. People like to meet the person that's running the project. So next we're on to rewards, which is one of the parts of creating a project that we get asked the most questions about. What is it that I can give as a reward? I don't have a product. I don't have anything like that I can give away. How can I reward people? Well, first things first, it's actually not essential to have rewards on Crowdfunder. You can set a project live as a donation-only project if that's what you'd like to do, and that's absolutely fine. Also, even if you do have rewards, every single project has a donate button at the top of the project, so people can choose to just donate anyway, even if you have rewards on there. So really important to note that. Think about who your audience are, first of all, when you're working out what to give as rewards. If you remember from part 1 when we were planning your project, you should have a really clear idea of who you're targeting from your network map. So work back, what's going to be worthwhile to them? What's something that they'll look forward to? Is that an experience of some kind, whether that's an invitation for a cookery masterclass or a gardening workshop? Is it just a little event, maybe tea and cake or a coffee morning, something like that, or a barbecue that you could put on? Are you actually able to recruit any local businesses or organisations to donate products or services that you can give away? So if you don't have anything yourself, perhaps you know someone who might be able to offer things up that you can give away, much like you might have done for a raffle. That kind of thing also works really, really well. Sponsorship opportunities, I think, is a really strong one. If you don't have any traditional sponsorship opportunities still open, perhaps you can think of some that are just available for this crowdfunder, perhaps just for this element of the project that your organisation is running here. Something which I've seen work really well, particularly for projects that involve a lot of participation, so it's sports clubs or community projects, is to offer local businesses or organisations the chance to sponsor an award, for example. So let's say if you're a local football club, it might be that they can sponsor a Most Improved Player award or something like that. Of course, what you can do is match up how much people are contributing towards what that's going to pay for. So for example, £20 will allow us to buy a new table, and £40 will buy us a set of chairs to go on it. So you can work back what the different amounts might pay for, and that's sometimes quite a helpful way of guiding people towards how much they might want to contribute. There's loads more advice on rewards in part 2 of our crowdfunding pack, which is all about creating your project. So do check back in there. There's lots of examples and key tips on the kind of things that you might want to offer. So next up, we'll look at setting targets. A couple of really key facts to note, which is really useful when you're working back the numbers, that the average pledge across Crowdfunder is £50. And we know that also 1 in 20 people who have a look at your project page will go on to make a pledge. So I find it a lot more useful to think about target in terms of number of people. So you can work out if you can get 100 people to look at your page, you think that's realistic, then you think probably 5 of those will make a pledge. And if you've got 5 people all pledging £50, then you've got £250 in the bank. So you can start to work it back a little bit with those numbers. Do also, of course, take into account fees, which you can find if you just search fees, and from our homepage you can find the full details on those. And also any costs associated with delivering your rewards. But it's very much a balance between what's realistic and how much you need in order to actually do the thing that you're trying to do. Quite a good way of approaching it is to think about a couple of targets. So perhaps the absolute minimum that you need to raise in order to make your project happen. And then perhaps there's a bigger number, which is what you're really after, which was kind of more an ideal world. I would generally set that first number as your initial target. Go low, go achievable, aim to hit that in the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then set a stretch target and overfund. And there's more information on how that works online, setting stretch targets. So it doesn't stop when you reach the top. You can raise more money than your initial target. Something else which you get to choose is your funding method. Now there's 2 options. You can choose all or nothing, which does what it says on the tin. So you have to hit your target in order to receive the money. Or you can do flexible funding, where anything that you raise, you get to keep. People often ask, why would anyone go for all or nothing? Flexible funding seems like such an easier option. And actually, the main reason why people opt for all or nothing is that it's a much stronger motivator for both you and your supporters and your network. If they know that you have to raise £5,000 in order for your project to happen, and you have £4,000, everyone's going to rally around to help you get that last bit that you need to reach 100%. Keep What You Raise or flexible funding is a very good option for charities, for example, where actually any amount raised can be put to good use. So have a think about that. And again, there's more information online as to which one might be right for you. So if you've made it this far and you haven't added your project yet, now is the time. Click that Start Crowdfunding button on the Crowdfunder website. Start adding things in, have a look at what kind of things you can add and how it looks when you've done that on the preview of your page, and start playing around with it. That's the best way. Don't spend too long coming up with all these ideas and visuals and all of the text to go on your page without just having a go at putting it in. No one can see your page unless you share it with them until you're live, so don't worry about having a working draft. If you have any questions at all about anything we've spoken about in this session or otherwise, you can find me on Twitter for any short, sharp, quick questions. I'm at Sammy Morja, or you can message in on email at support@crowdfunder.co.uk, and one of the team here will be more than happy to lend a hand and help you out. Our next session is going to be after Easter. It's going to be at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, the 26th of April, and that's all going to be about running your project. So that's how you promote it to your audience, how you spread the word and get people motivated to actually get those pledges in. So I'm hoping that today's session has been useful and that you've found lots of things for you to do and to look at. Do have a look at those crowdfunding packs again, particularly this part 2 for the things that we've been talking about today. And you can find those both in the Eventbrite, where you've signed up to watch today, and also below the video on YouTube. You can find the pack there. So I look forward to seeing you in the next session. See you then. Thanks, bye.